Some houses don't echo until you start emptying them. If you've ever stood in a room that used to know you, this one's for you. Take a breath. We'll go room by room. The house looked smaller than Mary remembered. Not abandoned, not ruined, just reduced, as if time had gently pressed in from all sides. The paint along the porch rail was peeling in familiar places. The front steps dipped slightly in the middle, worn down by decades of comings and goings that had never seemed important while they were happening. Mary parked at the curb and sat for a moment with the engine off, hands resting in her lap. The silence inside the car felt louder than the street. Her sister was already there. Elena stood on the porch with a cardboard box at her feet, arms crossed loosely, gaze fixed somewhere past the front yard. She hadn't changed as much as Mary expected. Older, yes, sharper around the edges, but still unmistakably Elena, still carrying herself like someone who had learned how to leave without looking back. Mary stepped out of the car. The screen door creaked when she opened it. Elena turned at the sound. "Hey," Elena said. "Hey," Mary replied. They stood there for a beat, the house between them like a third presence, waiting. "We should start," Elena said finally. Mary nodded. The front door stuck the way it always had. Mary leaned into it instinctively, shoulder braced, and felt it give, with a familiar resistance. The smell hit her immediately. Dust. Old wood. Something faintly sweet that might have been the last trace of her mother's perfume, or might have been imagination filling in gaps. Elena set her box just inside the door. "I forgot how quiet it is," she said. Mary didn't answer. She was standing in the entryway, looking at the coat hooks on the wall. Only one jacket still hung there. Their father's, brown, heavy, unmoved since the day he'd stopped coming home. "We don't have to do everything today," Mary said. Elena glanced at her. "Yes, we do." Mary swallowed and nodded. They started with the living room because it was closest, and because neither of them wanted to say out loud that the bedrooms could wait. The couch sagged in the middle, exactly as Mary remembered. The coffee table bore the same ring stains from mugs set down without coasters. The bookshelf against the far wall was half empty, its contents thinned out by earlier, quieter visits. Elena crouched in front of it and ran her fingers along the spines. "You took most of the books already," she said, not accusing, just stating. Mary shrugged. "Mom told me to." "Of course she did," Elena replied. Mary stiffened. "She asked me to look after things." Elena stood, dusting off her hands. "She asked you to stay." The words landed harder than Mary expected. They worked in silence after that, each choosing a corner, each handling objects like they might bruise if held too tightly. Mary picked up a framed photo from the mantel, their parents on the back porch, younger than she ever remembered them being. Elena stood just out of frame, visible only by the edge of her sleeve. Mary put the frame face down in a box labeled "Maybe." The kitchen felt unchanged in a way that made Mary's chest ache. The same linoleum floor, the same calendar from 3 years ago still pinned to the wall, pages never turned. The same chip in the counter by the sink where Elena had dropped a plate once and laughed too hard afterward. Elena opened a drawer and paused. "Do you remember these?" she asked. Mary stepped closer. Inside lay a jumble of mismatched utensils, rubber bands, a dead lighter, and a folded note with their mother's handwriting. Elena didn't unfold it. Mary did. "Don't forget milk." Mary smiled despite herself. Elena exhaled. God. They stood there longer than necessary, staring into the drawer like it might say more if they waited. Finally, Elena closed it. "Trash," she said. Mary hesitated, then nodded. They broke for coffee. They didn't really want, sitting at opposite ends of the old kitchen table. Elena scrolled on her phone without looking at anything. Mary stared at the clock above the stove, its second hand stuck between ticks. "So," Elena said eventually, "you stayed." Mary looked at her. "You left." Elena snorted quietly. "Fair." Mary wrapped her hands around the mug. "Mom needed someone." "She needed both of us," Elena replied. The silence stretched. "Why didn't you come back?" Mary asked. Elena's jaw tightened. "I did. Just not in the way you wanted." Mary looked away. The house creaked softly around them, settling into their weight. They saved the hallway closet for last. Neither of them said why. When Mary opened the door, the smell of mothballs and old coats rushed out. Shoes lined the floor, some worn down past usefulness, some barely touched. Elena reached in and pulled out a small cardboard box wedged behind a stack of boots. "What's this?" she asked. Mary frowned. "I don't know." Inside were envelopes, all addressed to Elena. None opened. The return address was their mother's. Mary's stomach dropped. Elena stared at the box, unreadable. "She never told me," Mary said. Elena laughed once, sharp and brittle. "Of course she didn't." She lifted one envelope, turned it over, then set it back down. "I can't read these here," she said. Mary nodded. "Okay." They closed the closet door gently, like the contents might hear them. They moved upstairs, without discussing it. The stairs groaned under their weight, each step announcing itself the way it always had. Mary kept her hand light on the railing, remembering how their mother used to warn them not to lean too hard, as if the house itself might give up if pushed. Elena paused halfway up. "I used to count these," she said suddenly. Mary looked back. "Count what?" "The steps," Elena replied. "When I was little, I thought if I ever missed one, something bad would happen." Mary smiled faintly. "Did it?" Elena shook her head. "No, I just stopped counting." They continued upward. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched out, narrower than Mary remembered. The light fixture hummed softly, its glow uneven. Doors lined the walls, all closed. The bedrooms, the bathroom, the end of the hall, where the linen closet still waited like a polite suggestion. Elena reached for the first door on the left. "Mine," she said. Elena's bedroom smelled like dust and old paper. The bed frame was bare, mattress long gone. Posters still clung to the walls, corners curling, colors faded. A faint outline marked where her desk used to sit. The carpet lighter there, untouched by years of footsteps. Elena stood in the doorway, arms folded, not stepping inside. "I thought it would feel louder," she said. Mary walked past her, slow, careful. She picked up a cracked snow globe from the windowsill, the one Elena had insisted on keeping, even after it leaked water onto the carpet. "You cried when this broke," Mary said. Elena huffed. "I was 8. You made me glue it back together." Elena smiled despite herself. "It didn't even work." Mary turned it over gently. The flakes inside barely moved. They packed quietly. Old notebooks, a shoebox of letters, a ribbon from a school play neither of them had attended the other's performance in. Elena finally stepped into the room and knelt beside the box. "Take this," she said, holding up a stack of spiral-bound journals. Mary frowned. "Those are yours." Elena shrugged. "They don't feel like mine anymore." Mary didn't argue. She set them in the box, carefully, like they might still be listening. Mary's room was next. It was smaller. Always had been. The walls were bare now, stripped clean during the long months when she'd moved back in to help their mother. The only thing left was the narrow dresser against the wall, one drawer stubbornly stuck. Mary tugged it open with effort. Inside were folded clothes she didn't recognize at first. Soft, neutral, practical. Things she'd worn during the years Elena had been gone. Elena leaned against the doorframe. "You changed." Mary didn't look up. "So did you." Elena considered that. "Yeah." At the back of the drawer, beneath the clothes, Mary found a small velvet pouch. She opened it slowly. Their mother's wedding ring. Mary's breath caught. "I didn't know where she put it," Elena said quietly. "I thought she sold it." "She didn't," Mary replied. "She just stopped wearing it." They stood there, the weight of the ring pressing into Mary's palm, heavy with all the things neither of them said. Mary placed it gently back in the pouch. "We'll decide later," she said. Elena nodded. The bathroom was last. The mirror was still clouded along the edges, the silver backing eaten away by time. The medicine cabinet held half-empty bottles, expired years ago. A toothbrush sat in a cup by the sink, bristles bent outward, forgotten. Elena stared at it. "She kept yours," Mary said softly. Elena laughed, short and breathless. "Why?" "I don't know," Mary replied. "Habit, hope, both." Elena reached out and touched the mirror, then pulled her hand back like the glass was warm. They cleaned quickly, efficiently, no lingering. When they stepped back into the hallway, the house felt different, lighter, or maybe more exposed. Mary checked the time on her phone. "Do you want to stop for today?" she asked. Elena hesitated, then shook her head. "No. Let's finish the downstairs." Mary nodded, though her chest tightened at the thought. The dining room was formal, in a way none of them ever were. The table was long, polished, covered by a cloth their mother had ironed once, and then never again. Chairs sat pushed in neatly, like they were waiting for guests who never came. Mary lifted the cloth carefully. Dust rose in a thin cloud. Elena opened the sideboard and laughed quietly. She kept everything. Stacks of placemats, napkin rings, candles half burned and carefully saved. "She always thought there'd be a reason," Mary said. Elena held a napkin ring up to the light. There was. She just didn't get to use it. They packed in silence, each lost in their own version of the same memory. The garage door protested loudly when they opened it. The smell of oil and old cardboard rushed out. The space was dim, lit only by a single bare bulb. Boxes were stacked along the walls, labeled in their mother's careful handwriting. Taxes. Winter. Elena. Mary froze at the last one. Elena noticed. She labeled one for me? Mary nodded. She started it after you left. Just added things. Elena opened the box. Inside were scarves, old birthday cards, a mug from a cafe Elena used to love, small things that said I remembered you without ever being mailed. Elena sat back on her heels, the concrete cold beneath her. She never sent any of this, Elena said. No, Mary replied, but she never stopped packing for you. Elena pressed her lips together, eyes bright. They closed the box carefully and slid it back into place. Take it, Mary said. Elena shook her head. Not yet. By the time they returned to the living room, the light outside had shifted. Late afternoon pressed against the windows, long and golden. The boxes, stacked along the walls, made the room feel smaller again, but different now. Intentional. Mary sat on the floor, back against the couch, legs stretched out. Elena joined her a moment later, sitting close but not touching. We didn't pack much, Elena said. Mary glanced around. We packed enough. Elena was quiet for a while. What are you taking? She asked finally. Mary thought about it. About the ring, the journals, the box in the garage. I don't know yet, she said. What are you leaving? Elena smiled sadly. More than I thought. They sat there as the house settled around them, filled with what remained and emptied of what didn't. The house wasn't finished with them yet, but it was starting to let go. They ordered takeout and ate it on the living room floor. The boxes sat between them, lids folded back, food cooling faster than either of them cared about. The television stayed off. Neither of them suggested turning it on. Elena picked at her meal, then set the fork down. I thought I'd feel relieved, she said, being back here. Mary leaned her head against the couch cushion. And Elena exhaled slowly. I feel complicated. Mary smiled faintly. That tracks. Elena glanced at her. Do you ever resent me for leaving? The question hung there, bare and unguarded. Mary didn't answer right away. She stared at the ceiling, tracing a crack that ran from one corner to the light fixture. Yes, she said finally. Sometimes. Elena nodded, accepting it without flinching. And, do you ever resent me? Mary asked. For staying? Elena laughed quietly, the sound edged with sadness. More than I like to admit. They looked at each other then, something easing between them, simply because it had been named. They slept in their old rooms that night. Mary lay awake longer than she meant to, listening to the house breathe. Pipes clicked softly. The wind nudged the siding. Somewhere downstairs, something creaked, settling under its own weight. She thought about the way Elena had said complicated. In the early morning hours, Mary heard footsteps in the hallway. The bathroom light flicked on, then off. The sound of the sink running briefly, a door closing gently. The house still knew them. Morning came pale and quiet. They drank coffee, standing at the counter, the mugs mismatched, the silence companionable now rather than tense. Elena broke it first. We need to decide about the ring. Mary nodded. Yeah. They set the velvet pouch on the table between them. It looked smaller in daylight. Elena reached for it, then stopped. You should have it, she said. Mary blinked. Why? You were here, Elena replied. You carried everything. You earned. Mary shook her head. That's not how this works. Elena frowned. Then how does it? Mary slid the pouch closer to the center of the table. We don't decide because one of us suffered more. We decide because it belongs to both of us. Elena stared at the ring inside the pouch. After a long moment, she nodded. Okay. They left it there. The last room was the basement. They had avoided it on purpose. The light switch stuck, clicking twice before the bulb flickered on. The air was cooler down there, damp with the smell of concrete and old cardboard. Boxes lined the walls, most unlabeled. Holiday decorations. Tools their father had never thrown out. A bike with a rusted chain. Elena crouched near a stack of photo albums and pulled one free. Do you want to look? She asked. Mary hesitated, then nodded. They sat on the cold steps and opened the album together. Birthday cakes, crooked smiles, a Christmas morning frozen mid-chaos. Elena stopped on a page. That's the year I left, she said. Mary traced the edge of the photo with her finger. You look scared. Elena swallowed. I was. They closed the album carefully. Take it, Mary said. Elena shook her head. We'll split them. Mary smiled. Okay. By midday, the house was mostly empty. Boxes were stacked by the door. The walls looked too bare, as if they'd been stripped of their voice. Elena walked from room to room one last time, hands brushing door frames, counters, the edge of the staircase. At least it doesn't feel angry, she said. Mary considered that. It never was. They stood in the living room together, sunlight pooling on the floor where the rug used to be. What did you pack? Elena asked softly. Mary thought about it. Proof, she said, that she loved us. Both of us. Even when we weren't here at the same time. Elena nodded, eyes bright. Yeah. They carried the last box out to the car. The porch creaked under their combined weight. The door closed behind them with a sound that felt final without being cruel. Elena set her box down and looked at the house. I don't hate it anymore, she said. Mary smiled. Me neither. They stood there for a moment longer, letting the quiet settle. Then Elena picked up her box. Ready? She asked. Mary nodded. They left the house empty, but not hollow. They drove away together. The house shrank in the rearview mirror, then disappeared entirely. Mary rested her hand against the window, feeling the vibration of the road. Elena hummed softly, a tune Mary recognized but couldn't place. What are you going to do now? Mary asked. Elena smiled, small and real. Come back more often. Mary nodded. Good. The boxes shifted gently in the back seat, full of objects and decisions, and the weight of shared history. They hadn't packed everything, but they packed enough. They stopped at a diner on the edge of town without talking about it first. It wasn't a place either of them had gone growing up. That felt important. Neutral ground. No history pressed into the booths. They slid into a corner seat, vinyl cracked, table sticky from decades of use. The server brought coffee, without asking. It tasted thin and burned, but familiar in a way that didn't belong to the house. Elena wrapped her hands around the mug. I used to think leaving meant I was stronger. Mary stirred her coffee slowly. And now? And now I think it just meant I was scared in a different direction. Mary nodded. Staying wasn't brave either. It was just what I did. They sat with that. Two truths that didn't cancel each other out. Elena smiled faintly. Funny how much we needed to empty the house to finally talk. Mary smiled back. It took the walls out of it. Elena dropped Mary off first. They stood on the sidewalk beside the car, the boxes still tucked away in the back seat. The day had moved on without them. Traffic passed. Someone walked a dog across the street. Ordinary life, continuing as if nothing monumental had happened. I'll come back next month, Elena said, if that's okay. Mary's throat tightened. I'd like that. Elena hesitated, then stepped forward and hugged her. It was awkward for half a second, then settled into something familiar. Call me, Elena said. Not just when things are hard. Mary nodded. You too. Elena got back in the car. This time, she looked back before driving away. That evening, Mary unpacked slowly. She placed the journals on her bookshelf, side by side with her own. She set the velvet pouch in the back of her drawer, not hidden, but not displayed either. She paused over the photo albums, then slid half of them into a separate box, already labeled with Elena's name. The house around her own house now, felt quieter than usual, but not empty. Mary sat on the edge of her bed and thought about all the things she hadn't taken. The couch, the table, the walls themselves. She hadn't needed them. A week later, Elena called. Hey, she said. I found something. Mary smiled at the sound of her voice. What? One of Mom's recipes. The one she never wrote down properly. It was tucked inside one of the envelopes. Mary laughed softly. Of course it was. I thought maybe we could make it together sometime, Elena said. Mess it up. Argue about it. I'd like that, Mary replied. They stayed on the line longer than necessary, talking about nothing in particular. The house sold quickly. Mary didn't go to the final walkthrough. Elena did, and sent her photos instead. Empty rooms, clean walls, sunlight falling where furniture used to be. It didn't hurt the way Mary thought it might. The house had already let them go. Months passed. Elena visited, then visited again. Sometimes they talked about their parents. Sometimes they didn't. They built something new that didn't require agreement about the past to function. One evening, sitting on Mary's couch, Elena said, I think we packed the right things. Mary smiled. Yeah, me too. On the anniversary of their mother's death, Mary lit a candle and didn't say anything out loud. She didn't feel the need to explain herself to Memory anymore. She texted Elena a simple heart. Elena sent one back. That was enough. Years later, Mary would think of the house not as a place she lost, but as a container that did its job. It held them until it couldn't anymore. What they packed wasn't furniture or keepsakes or proof of ownership. It was understanding, and that was something they could carry anywhere. Thank you for staying with this one. Some places don't ask to be remembered. They ask to be understood. If you've ever packed a room that once held a version of you, you know how heavy empty space can be. This story wasn't about what was taken. It was about what was finally shared. This has been What We Packed from the house. I'll meet you again, wherever memory decides to rest.